The rest of you, let's
Wait,
sit
Simon
down.
didn't say. There you go.
No, they can sit.
Okay, you can sit now.
They can sit down. Because you were all like lame. You need to stand up and get some blood movement. Because we need a lot of excitement when Veronica goes on, which is what's going to happen now. So I'm going to introduce Veronica López, who, interestingly, speaks in 4 different languages and codes in 3. And now Veronica.
Okay, good. Hi, I'm Verónica López. I'm here to talk about the modern garbage collector, but it's actually the modern because you will see reasons now. Who am I? I'm an engineer at Ardan Labs. This means a lot of things. Like, there's a reason I'm not like a software engineer, but I'm an engineer because my span goes like all over the place. I used to write some mobile apps, both in Android and iOS. And actually, I used to do Go talks, Go mobile talks. But suddenly, like, people in Reddit didn't like it like anymore. I don't know if they like my talks or not, but they said that I talk too much about Go mobile. And so I was like, okay, I'm sorry. So today I'm not going to talk about Go mobile. And also, because there's also a genuine reason behind that, and that's because the Go mobile thing has been going on so fast that actually the only persons that have all the current information, accurate information, are the ones that write it. So of course I don't have like the access to that, and my talks are always a little bit behind or seem like a bit newbie. So I'm based in Mexico City, and I travel all around the world, but I'm mostly based in Mexico City. And there I organized the Gophers MX Meetup, which is the biggest community in Latin America. Before this, I used to be a physicist doing quantum computing research, which actually brought me into computers just to be a better physicist, but I have never gone back yet. And I love tea. Okay, so the disclaimer, I already said the disclaimer, I'm not going to talk about Go Mobile anymore. And well, now the title of my talk is The Modern Garbage Collector. First, let's go to the garbage collector part. And then we'll go to the modern part. Okay, so why is it important to talk about garbage collectors and not just like the evident reasons? Well, everybody who here does like distributed scalable systems? Okay, now who would like to do distributed scalable systems? Okay, yeah. Okay, so it seems to be the trend, but well, so in order to have scalable distributed systems and for them to be successful, a lot of these systems rely on real-time processes. You know, so in order to have firm and soft real-time systems, you require like a garbage collector that doesn't do like the old school stuff of pausing a lot, you know? Also, well, in Go 1.5, there's a significant improvement in the latency. I don't know how to pronounce this. Latency? I don't know.
That's right.
Okay. Okay. Okay, so, and this softens the haters because there are a lot of blog posts around, also Reddit, that are like, yeah, Go is super trendy and stuff, but the latency is like the worst. Well, since Go 1.5, not anymore. And when haters are softened, well, they become potential Go adopters. So this little talk is totally based and inspired by Rick Hudson's main talk at GopherCon back in July, where, well, in this specific slide, which I borrowed from his presentation, he explains like the goals, both long-term and short-term, for, well, the impact that these changes will have in the community and the future. And well, the short-term, the last one, is the increase of Go adoption. So that's always like, that's good for the Go team, of course, but it's also good for the community because the more the merrier. And the more people involved in a community, more resources we have, right? Okay. So, has anybody worked with Java here? Cool. And from those who has worked with Java, do you like it? Well, raise your hand the ones that like it. Okay. Well, so the stop the world approach of the garbage collectors is like the most popular one, but it is not popular because it's cool, but it's popular because it was the most used, and of course because of Java. So the stop the world approach is perfect if we're not so modern or simple systems, right? Or if your program is supposed to run once, write something or take something, and then quit, you know? So there are a lot of programs like that, and it's okay. But in long-running apps, like distributed systems and concurrent systems, either they are like desktop, server-side, or even mobile, can result in, well, frozen UIs, such as in what happens a lot in Android stuff, but I'm not going to talk about mobile. And, well, slow response times in all types of systems, and nobody likes it. So, but more than like the computer science, I don't know, context of this, a very important point for this is like the social context of it. So I know, as I have told you, and you have raised your hands, like building scalable distributed systems is what happens to be like in trend and super cool. But believe it or not everybody like out there likes that or is focused on that or earns money that way. So the social context of all these improvements in the Go language are very, very important because often, as I do live in the US, I am often, well, people often ask me, like, okay, so you seem to like Go a lot, so why is it? Not just because it's cool, not just because Google makes it and stuff like that, you know? So, like, I have seen the trend in the US, especially in Bay Area, of course. It's like they try to replicate what the other startup does, you know, and that's super cool. But what about when you're talking to people that is not that familiar with that, or that you can tell them like, oh, this startup uses Go, and it's like, okay, fine, that's cool, but that doesn't like help a lot. So I often try to give the positive arguments for Go in the computer science level, you know, and something that people can feel related to, and it's like an approachable approach. So diverse communities expect results rather than coolness, as opposed like for people that just want to, I don't know, belong to the trend or belong to, I don't know, the group of people that use cool stuff. So then the useful tools, they prefer useful tools over easy tools, though the intersection is super cool, like Go. And when the tools are useful, they are fast or light or whatever their problem used to be. And that means progress. But not just progress like, now my program is complete. It's like progress as in social progress. Because, you know, outside of the US, people code for a living. And when I say for a living, I mean it. It's like they have families, and code really represents a difference in developing countries, you know? So when a programming language really makes a difference, it really makes a social impact. Because, well, progress, of course, means money, and money, well, I don't have to explain, right? So now let's go to the modern part of it. So since Go 1.5, the latency of the garbage collector, the latency that the garbage collector implied got more efficient, I guess. And it relies, well, the explanation behind this relies on saying that modern systems are scalable and distributed and blah, 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 and the ones that take advantage of modern architectures. But, well, that is true, this is not like precisely modern, because this has been like existing for decades and decades and decades. And in fact, let me go to another slide before. Okay, I think I lost it. But in fact, Dijkstra wrote a paper back in 1978 about how to improve latency thanks to the garbage collector optimizations. He used Lisp to do this, well, and other co-authors. But the thing is that this has been around for a while. So it's actually pretty cool that Go, with such popularity that it has, takes advantage of this, because it has been already like there. I know it's not so easy to implement like from the beginning, or even take into account when you're designing a programming language. But it's super cool that even before the version 2 of the language, this is taken into consideration. So even if Go and other programming languages like Elixir or Rust are built to take advantage of modern architectures, the concept has been around for decades, including the concurrent garbage collector. So, here's my slide. Okay, so Dijkstra wrote the paper like back in 1978. The title is On-the-Fly Garbage Collection, an Exercise in Cooperation. So when I share the slides with you, I guess, you'll have the link. It's super cool. Even if you're not like into very like low-level computer science stuff, it's very easy to read. It's shortish and nothing too complex, and it really helps you understand. And also it's easy because even if they used Lisp for this experiment, it is more, the actual experiment that they show is based on graphs, just with the, I don't know how to say that in English, but like the circles and the arrows, just, well, the graphs. Yeah. And well, in this paper they introduce what, I don't know if you're familiar with already garbage collectors stuff, well, the tricolor collector division, you know? Sorry. When you divide like the tasks or the threads or the Go routines in this case, like in white, black, or gray, depending on the status of well, their activities, and whether they should be collected or not, or whatever. And also, well, another point why this is not that modern is because the Beam languages that are Erlang and Elixir already sort of do this in their own way, but they already did it. So, of course, this sounds super magical, and it is, but it also has some downsides. The first one of them is that users have reported, well, problems with compiling times. And this is important because, as many of you have heard, like from the beginning, or when people try to sell you Go, it's always like, oh no, compiling times are super, super fast, and you don't have to wait, blah, blah, blah. So now we're sort of giving up that part, but it's not like forever. It was just like a trade-off for this. Actually, the other day, I think Dave was having a conversation on Twitter about compiling times, I don't know, like yesterday or 2 days ago, which was very interesting. And well, the second downside is that pacing the new garbage collector might not be that evident. So let me show you here. So this is the graph with the downsides. So as I told you, we have the compiling times and the pacing and the garbage collector. So the pacing in the garbage collector is nothing else than when you have to optimize any garbage collector, you have to take two pieces of theory into account, like the heap growth and the CPU use in general. So either you have one or the other. So the optimization for that is like to have 50-50, or it depends on what you're trying to achieve. So this part, the heap growth versus CPU resources, it's not that evident to pace. There's actually a blog post in the official Go blog. that talks about this. And of course, I'm not going to talk about it because they, again, they explain it much better than I can. So, well, what I'm going to talk about, like super quick, is like, this is not super evident because it all depends on what point, at what point you introduce the garbage collection in your program. So if you introduce it too soon, then you're wasting your resources. Yeah, it's not like optimized. And then if you start it too late, the heap grows out of control. So that's what I was talking about. But this still shall pass. Because this, as I told you, was just like a trade-off, a temporary trade-off. Like, I don't know, I'm not in the Go team, but I read the blog posts and everything. So, in order, since the garbage collection optimization was like a very important thing to do, well, of course we have the trade-offs that we have talked about, but it's something temporary that it's not just because of the garbage collector improvement, but it's also because now also the garbage collector is written in Go, and it was written in C previously. So with C they had it all figured out already, and now with Go they are still figuring it out. But I think that in version 1.6 it will be ready to go. Okay, so yeah. Now, well, just to finish with this like sort of comparison. Well, the other day when I was brainstorming about my talk, I came up with the idea of the garbage collector, and I tweeted something like, what's the first thing that comes to your mind when you read garbage collector, right? And this was the answer. So I was like, okay, oh, well, it's Java, 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 and the last Lisp. You always have to have the hipster, right? Pretty well. Okay, so what the beam does, the beam is the virtual machine that controls Elixir or Neuralink. So what it basically does is that the garbage collection is generational. So it divides everything into two, like new generation stuff and old generation. So the new generation, well, I'm not going to explain all the process because I'm not that good at it. But the difference between the two generations is basically that the processes in Beam, well, the Beam treats all the processes just almost like operating systems processes. So each process is, I don't know, read individually, and if it was not a candidate, like in the first sweep of the garbage collector, then it goes to the old generation, and so on. So it goes through sweeps that you can configure and do stuff with. And if the process is not a candidate, it goes to the old generation, and the new generation stays with the ones that are candidates to be swept away. So, but in the case of Java, well, you know that unfortunately I have also a lot of experience with Java. So for Java 8, you know that for every single release, since they're like powered by the people, they also give back a lot to the people. So every single release contains what people complain about in the past. So now they have like a better system for garbage collection. Well, this is not that new. Actually, Java, they have several systems, but the most new and popular one and efficient one is called Garbage First. And well, they write it as G1 GZ. So the Garbage First goal is to target multiprocessor machines with large memories, which is also like similar to what Go tries to do with the scalable and distributed systems. But this is more, I'm sorry. So this is more oriented towards a lot of code and a lot of machines, rather than just being like the flawless, I don't know, yeah. So now the heap is partitioned into equal sizes. Like, it's a bit similar to what the Beam does with Erlang and Elixir, but here it's not like generational. And it's not just 2 sizes. Here it is as much sizes as it requires. And these sizes are called regions, and they're contiguous. How do you say that? Contiguous. Well, when the garbage collection takes place and the processes or the threads are swept away, these contiguous spaces, what basically happens is that they are swept away, and they are not swept away like in blocks, you know. There's usually like fragmentation, and in order to avoid that, the G1GC just compacts everything back to a single like space. So that way you don't have a lot of fragmentation and a lot of unused and unoptimized space. So, before this G1GC garbage collector thing, as I said, they have other options, and one of them was the concurrent mark sweep. But the difference with the G1GC is that it didn't have the compaction abilities. It did swept away, like, it did fragment everything into little, fragments, but it didn't have the ability to reduce the space and optimize the unused ones. So, so the moral of all of this is, like, whether you're a new user for Go or you're trying to convince your team to use Go, always try like to tackle it from the, a strong point of view. Not just like, oh, because it's cool or because it's easy to use or the syntax. Though, Go, one of Go's strong points is readability, but other than that, my approach has always been like to tackle it from the computer science part. Like, okay, so you have this with Java, or you had this with PHP, because that's what they use in my country. And you can do this. You can do it this way with Ruby. You can do it this way with Python, but it's pretty much the same, just like a bit prettier, you know. But with Go, there's like a real difference in, the garbage collector is just like something very helpful for those sort of explanations. So that's it. Thank you. Do you have any questions?
Got one right here.
Sorry, it's not really a question. I just noticed you said there are 2 downsides to the new GC. One of them was the pacing, and the other was the slower compilation time.
Yeah.
The slower compilation time is actually because of a different thing that happened in Go 1.5, which is that the compiler, which used to be a C program, became a Go program. And the Go compiler, when it compiles that program, has to make more pessimistic assumptions than Ken Thompson using a C compiler. And as a result, it allocates all the memory. And that's the reason the file is noticeably slower in this. It's not actually the garbage collector's fault.
Well, actually, I said this not because I drop it out of my imagination, but because I have seen like plenty of discussions of users actually complaining about this. Like the other day, the conversation with Dave Schenning, who were you talking to? Matt?
I think it was Matt Emanetti.
Yeah, so they were talking about that exact same issue. So I already had it in my presentation, and I was like, yeah. So everybody, a lot of people is like complaining about it. I don't know if like that's the reason behind all of it, you know, the original foundation. But people is taking it like that. So I don't know. Something else?
Are there other questions? All right, everyone, thank you very much, Veronica.
Thank you.
Thank you, Veronica.